Hello, everybody. Welcome to Touch of Magic. I'm Marissa Diaradia, aka Sin City Witch, and today's topic for this Sunday is astrology. And our special guest today is Michelle Prentiss. Michelle Prentiss is a second-generation astrologer and witch. She began her journey of learning the art and science of astrology, as well as many other forms of divination and ritual, from her mother, which is wonderful, more than 40 years ago. Do we want to say 40 years ago, Michelle? It's a long time, right? So her general
Yeah.
focus is holistic. It combines astrology with a multi-modality of intuitive guidance that synthesizes astrological information with divination and energy work. Her intention when she's doing her work is to facilitate an experience that uplifts, guides, and supports her clients for their individual soul's journey. Michelle's also um, held an astrological practice for over 25 years. She's a member of ISAR, the International Society for Astronomical Research, and OPA, the Organization for Professional Astrologers. Even on top of this, if that's not enough for you guys, she's also an attuned Reiki healer, certified integrative nutritional health coach, and she offers one-on-one readings, astrological learning workshops, ceremonies, and retreats. Welcome, Michelle.
Thank you. Thanks for that whole thing. It's a lot.
Yeah, well, I want people to know who they're talking to today. So, who we're talking with today and who we're getting our information from. And I'm super excited to be chatting with you about astrology. It's one of my favorite subjects. I love it. We have something in common where we were in a household where astrology was a thing. And,
Yeah.
so yeah, you obviously are a more advanced astrologer than I am, but it is one of my passions. And I would consider myself intermediate, and I love it and I utilize it in my magic. And we're going to talk about that later and how you, are going to maybe do a class or something like that,
Yeah.
integrating astrology and magic, which would be great. So I'd like to start off with some insight into your practice and then get some highlights of astrological influences that we may be dealing with soon.
Yeah.
And then I'd really love to talk about a Jupiter conjunct Neptune in Pisces this week and
Yeah.
our eclipses and full moon energy. So are we ready?
Definitely. Yeah. Thank you, Marissa. So I have been practicing astrology, like I said, for over 40 years. I'm not going to lie, I'm in my mid 50s. um, and my mother was an astrologer, so I grew up speaking the archetypal language of astrology. My mother was also a practicing witch and was what you would call like an occultist, what we used to call an occultist at the time. Um, and I grew up in a household where it was like, kind of almost like what you would call almost like hoodoo, like a lot of like candle magic, like sympathetic magic. Um, but it was a lot, it was really rooted and grounded in astrology. So in many ways, it was very much attuned to astrological magic. Some of the first things that I ever did with my mom were like new and full moon ceremonies, so like around the new and full moon. And so, my entire, astrological sort of like premise is really integrated in like a lifelong affinity with the energetic forces of the planets. And I almost see them kind of like deities, like, they are all like, there's like a school of Mercury, there's a school of Saturn. And it's when you work with this energy, it just vitalizes your life, all the time. And so what I try and do for my clients is point out, I almost always like know why they're coming to me, because honestly, it's usually because of a tough transit or a tough time period in their life, like a Saturn return or something like that. And I try and guide them into, allowing like their own astrology to like speak to them energetically and how to do that and how to move with these energies and forces. So I've been studying a long time. And I'm still learning. As we're kind of an age, and you never stop learning about
No,
astrology.
never do.
It's changed a lot, it's very popular right now, which is exciting. And I definitely want people to learn more seriously about it. And we had talked earlier about that, because you can really, sometimes like, a little information can be a bad thing, so, it's important to have integrity, around, I would say, my mom used to say, astrology has 10,000 years of, psychological insight or, insight into human nature and the workings of these energetic factors. So there's a lot for us all to learn. But my astrology is like kind of holistic. It isn't any one way. I have, studied some Vedic astrology. I have studied Hellenistic astrology, which is really essentially the root of modern or Western astrology. Um, uh, and I kind of incorporate, some of that into, my readings, which are, usually like multi-modality too. I'm always pulling cards. I have a huge tarot collection too. And I studied the tarot actually even before astrology. When I was 12 years old, my mother, when I got my period, my mother actually brought me an apple and she said, this is Eve's apple, and now you can learn, and she was like rooted also in Kabbalah and things like that too. So
Yeah.
there was a lot of kind of sort of like some Judeo-Christian in there too, as well as some Celtic
Mysticism, right? It
mysticism.
was, yeah, that was, I mean, that was kind of that energy for back then too. I
For
think it was,
sure.
she wasn't an initiate of a tradition, right? This was her own spiritual
Yeah.
thing, right?
She was
Yeah.
involved with an aspect an Order of the Golden Dawn group.
Okay. Wow. Well, yeah, that's a
Um
tradition. All right.
yeah, yeah. But she didn't stay there. She was never like she was very solitary. So she didn't do too well. She had a moon in Aquarius. She didn't do too well with a lot of groups and a lot of the
Yeah.
hierarchy. Also in the 70s too, like there was a lot of that was a lot of hierarchy in some of the magical groups. And so she wasn't
Yeah.
wasn't really down with all of that that much.
I used to always say if I wanted hierarchy, I would have stayed Catholic because I liked being Catholic. I did. There was a lot about it. There's a lot of,
Beautiful.
you have all the saints you could want for anything you need, and the incense was fabulous.
A lot
I loved
of
it.
cool.
So it's
Yeah,
just,
yeah,
and there was a lot of things I didn't like either, but ritualistically speaking, there's a lot there, and the hierarchy and the obedience and subservience. So that was it. I like being sovereign over my life. I like the power that witchcraft gives me to
yeah,
create and be exactly who I am without shame. But and to step
absolutely.
into, every individual has that right to step into their own power and really create everything, create anything in your life. And once you realize you have that, you can't go back to falling to your knees and begging gods for things. I mean, it just can't
Mm,
can't happen. You've seen the bigger picture at that point. Anyway, I'm digressing on a tangent. So another thing I wanted to talk to you about with everybody here was the name of your website is Persephone Program. And I can't tell you how much I love that um, that connection to Persephone. What was your intent behind that, and how do you see that flowing with what you do?
well, thanks. Yeah, I mean, Persephone is definitely a guiding goddess to me. Persephone, the myth of Persephone is part of the reason why I created the practice. And the practice is that actually I wanted to be kind of almost more like, I think I started off more like Persephone and then turned into more of a Hecate, character, in the sense that I wanted to be someone that could bring a light to some of the darkness, okay, that people have been through. And it could be darkness through the actual, I like to call them like hardcore initiations of life. And sometimes they are through pain, trauma, what we call darkness. Darkness can also be ignorance, it can be being in the dark about your own life, being in a crossroads. But um, in the book that I wrote last year, Capricorn Rising, an Astrological Life, which you can get on Amazon, I talk about that in my chapter on Scorpio, because it's a lot about Pluto and the myth of Persephone and Pluto. And so I went through a lot of serious traumas when I was young. I don't know how much like you want me to say about this. I
I
have
want
many
you to
names.
say I want you to say
I
what you
was
feel. Let's
I
let
was
the vibe flow. Whatever needs to be said will be said today. That's how I always look at it.
I was abducted and raped when I was a young girl. Very kind of similarly to
Wow.
Persephone. And the myth and the calling of Persephone, and Persephone in Greek means she who loves the dark. And it was just so profound, and the myth of Persephone and Demeter and the Eleusinian mysteries, and the calling of Greek magic and the Greco-Roman tradition was just really huge for me, of just not having actually gone through this process of trauma and pain and being in the dark and working through that through magic and divination and empowering myself. That was like a real guiding, she was always a guiding spirit for me. And so when I decided to like put a name to my practice, and I started a podcast, which is also called the Persephone Program, a lot of it was to be like, to bring a light in the darkness, to like see like it's okay to be in the dark, and it's okay to have gone through this. This makes you more, that the transformative process of pain and trauma, there's a crack in everything. That's where the light comes through, is very empowering to people. And that sometimes trauma itself, or like experiences of being in the darkness, whether like they're near death experiences or health issues or just any kinds of forms of trauma itself can be an initiatory point into a deeper level of understanding the world itself. And it doesn't need to be something to be dismissed, but it could be used for empowerment. I guess that's pretty much how I saw Persephone as a character. And it was also very intuitive. It was like, all right, this is what it's going to be,
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that. I love that integration of that mythology into your practice. And thank you for sharing that part of your story. That's a painful thing, but you have not just survived, you have thrived and used it to transform your own life and helping other people do the same. I mean, if we could
Yeah,
take all of the things we go through and be able to do that, we've done a lot, right?
for
So,
sure. And you're uniquely guided to do that. I'm uniquely
right.
guided to, help people that have been through difficult things. And I kind of know how to get through them, and like you, we have a lot of tools, and astrology is one of the tools. Astrology, the word astrology also in Greek is like, astro is like the sky, and logos is word. It's like the word of the sky, or the word of of
I
heavens.
love that. I
So
love it.
yeah, it's like, this is like, and it's astrology was like the first part of a spiritual philosophy tradition called Hermeticism, which had three parts. And the first part was astrology, like get to know the will of the gods, or God, or the sky. And then alchemy was the middle of like, help use that to transform yourself. And then there was also something called theurgy, which is like connect with these gods or these deities or these spirits and have a relationship with them. So that's like my foundational
Yeah. So
astrological.
so your perception of gods and goddesses, I always like to ask people this. So are they archetypes to you, or are they living things to you?
Both.
We
Both.
have so much in common, Michelle. We really have to hang out more. We
I
really do.
We do. I know.
For
And
sure, for
they're both. They're
sure.
both energetic forces and living being things. And I do astrological magic. I do practice astrological magic. I want to cultivate, Jupiter, or cultivate Venus, or sometimes Saturn, and I have an altar, and I've got my statues, and I use that, and I petition that energy to come into my life. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Fantastic. I love it. Oh, this is fun. I'm having a fun time talking to you.
Yeah. God, you
All
have so
right.
many people. I see all the chats. Hi, everybody. Wow. Marissa, you're killing it.
All right. So here's the next question. So you're an astrologer and a witch. How would you describe your practice though? Your witchcraft practice? Is it, people like will call their practice something. So what would you call yours?
Um, Gosh, that's a really, I would say my practice is more devotional than it is necessarily a constant petition, It used to be like that, when we were younger, I definitely was doing like a lot more like, I need to win this court case, or, I want to be
Yeah.
like irresistible to my boyfriend, that kind of stuff, and even just stuff like, I have grown children, like when my kids were younger, I still do that. I'm still casting my pentagrams and popping them on my kids all the time. And but I would say that it's more devotional. It's like I really want to connect with the energy of the gods, and to the energy, the archetypal energies out there, and strategically kind of ask them what they want of me too. So there's, it's kind of
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
communion
There
or
you go.
devotion is more than I do constant petitions. And I have done some traditions. I mean, I did spend a lot of last year in a pretty formal Hecatian tradition where I was doing a lot of like formal kind of magic and petitioning and like connecting daily, chanting.
Yeah. Yeah. So online, in person.
Yeah, I mean, well, I have an
I'm
altar. I
sorry.
have an office, and I have a set up altar every single day. So it kind of changes around a little bit, and everything is kind of on the fly in person. But I have my little kit. Like if I travel, I can take it with me.
Yeah.
You know.
Very cool. Very, very cool. So, all right. So, would you say your practice is more like a traditional witchcraft or a pagan witchcraft or a Wiccan witchcraft?
Gosh,
It's
I
your
mean,
own eclectic version of your interpretation of it. That's what I'm
the
getting from
the
this.
first book of magic I ever bought myself was
One
Egyptian
second.
magic.
I'm gonna cough, guys. I'm so sorry. I don't know why. Of course, when I'm live, I'm gonna have a coughing fit. Sorry about that. Or
Um,
maybe not.
It's super windy here, you guys. We both live in Las Vegas, and it's just been
Yeah.
really windy and dusty. Our allergies are off the hook.
My allergies are through the roof from this wind. It's
Yeah,
crazy. So I'm
horrible.
going to drink water and I'm going to get through this. I wanted to make sure to talk to you today. So I was like, well, allergies or not, we're going to get through it.
Yeah.
All right. So it's your own unique eclectic blend
Yes.
and your connection to the universe is yours, and that's what it is.
Yeah,
All right.
like it is not like it's informal. My first book was Egyptian magic. The second book I ever bought was Scott Cunningham's Magical Herbalism. So
Yeah.
I was like that
I
was like in the 80s.
I think
Um,
everybody our age, we had a Scott Cunningham book for
Oh
sure.
yeah, he was like the go-to Wiccan
Yeah.
book writer, teacher. But I never really, got too into the formal religion of Wicca. No, I
Yeah.
mean it was like I've always like it's so true for so many witches. Like I just do my own thing. It works for me. I'm still learning. Like I went through a formal Hecatian training kind of thing too, but um, I- you know, I think that all of us can very easily find our way, on our own or and share, traditions because our own magic is ours.
Absolutely. You just
Learning
have
is
to know
good.
where to look. You just have
Yeah,
to have because there's a
discretion.
lot of information out there, some of it good, some of it not so good.
Correct.
Having a good foundation is, I think, important, and take it from there and figure out where you fit into your own path because your magic is yours. That's
Right.
it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean,
All
because
right.
hierarchies, definitely.
Next question. Any projects, any classes, what do you have on your website? Do you have all of that information there for people?
Yeah, I do. And I just finished up an Astrology 101 course. And as I mentioned to you, I am going to start a course this summer, Astrology for Witches. So if you go to my website, Persephone Program, I will have that up probably in the next few weeks or so. And I'm going to specifically talk about astrology for people that are practicing witches or that are practicing, any form of magic and how you can utilize astrology to better your magic. It's going to be like an introduction to astrology, but also an introduction to astrological magic, which is its own thing. So that's going to be happening this summer. And I'm thinking about doing now that we can. I had a retreat for 2020 called the Astrology of Relating that I had postponed, and I'm looking for a date for. I'm still right now looking for that date. because I want it to be in person, and it's going to be specifically on relationship astrology.
Oh, fun.
So,
Everybody wants to know about their love life. I
of
mean, you
course,
do readings. I mean, that's like the number one thing that everybody
yeah,
wants to know about their love life. So that's great. And having that astrological information can be very helpful, right? Because the
absolutely.
stars line up a certain way when you're open to that energy, right? There's timing's everything. That's what I always say.
Definitely timing, also like working on like one of the things that I've done in the past is I've done workshops specifically on planets, and Venus is one of my go-to, right? So Venus is the planet of relating in astrology, and relationships, and also like love and happiness and joy. And so ramping up your own Venus, like figuring out what is my natal Venus, what aspects do I have, what, how can I like really ramp up this like love energy within me, learning about that too, and there's a whole bunch of like little minor asteroids too, Eros and Juno, that are all
Yeah.
um involved in it. And I'm also going to teach people how to actually cast their own chart, like by hand too.
Oh, wow. You know what? That's a skill, guys. If we had an electromagnetic storm and all of our computers went out, we would need somebody who knew how to draw a chart by hand. Why not let it be you? Let Michelle teach you how to do it. For sure,
Yeah,
for sure.
it
I mean,
ain't
I hope
easy,
that doesn't
but
happen. I'm not hoping that happens, but you never know, you
you
know.
never know.
We had solar flares. Anybody else feel those? Michelle, did you feel those? The energy like knocked me like I was like, what is going on? It was
Yeah, I mean,
nuts.
solar flares are really weird. You definitely, I mean, that combined with all the Uranus energy has been like, it's been very electrical. It's been very like jarring. Even though, last year Saturn and Uranus were in square aspect to each other, and there was three exact passes because of the
Yeah, that was
retrograde.
fun.
And that, yeah, and it was just like, just jarring. And this year we don't have that energy, but it is still going to be fairly close because of the retrogrades over the summer. We'll still have a little bit of weirdness in August and September, as Saturn and Uranus get close enough, what we call orb of closeness to that square again. But yeah, it's been weird. And I often do feel like those like solar flares are really intense, and they inflame our consciousness, our physicality, our physical self, but also the collective consciousness that I think that we're all plugged into.
Absolutely. And these actually, I mean, there's solar flares all the time. These actually hit the earth, which they don't usually do that. So it's the type of solar flare that it was where it actually hit us. So I think that makes it a little people sensitive to that energy. They're going to definitely feel it.
Oh, yeah.
So
Yeah.
hopefully you don't have any more because, I definitely was affected by it, which I was trying to figure out what was going on. And I was like, oh, solar flares hitting the earth. All right. Now I get it. Makes
This
sense.
time, I mean that too, but I think I also mentioned to you too that like we had a Mars Saturn conjunction,
Yeah. Oh,
that
yeah.
was really nasty, and that Mars Saturn conjunction hit some really important points in your astrology too. And
Yeah.
it was like March was a really weird month too, the end of February, the beginning of March, and it was kind of like,
This whole year, I'm like, when is the weird energy going to stop? I'd really like it to stop now. I don't know if
well,
anybody else feels that, but I'm done with it. I wrote a post the other day. I said, I feel like I'm trying to sprint through glue. That's that's literally I want to move and I can't go. I can't get where and it seems like I'm getting somewhere and then I'm stuck again. It's terrible.
I mean, it's funny because everybody was affected by the Saturn Pluto conjunction of 2020.
Absolutely.
I did a workshop in 2019 getting ready for the Saturn Pluto conjunction in 2020, just like knowing that it was going to be, pretty bad. and
Yeah.
but then we had the Saturn Uranus square of 2021 of like the expansion, the freedom, the constriction, back and forth. But this year we have something very special, which we talked about before, which
Oh
is
yeah.
the conjunction of Jupiter and Neptune in Pisces, which is happening this Tuesday. And what these big like astrological events mean is that it's kind of like this energy is being released into our collective, and we are working with this energy. And we've had Neptune and Pisces for years now. Neptune is what we call the modern ruler of the sign Pisces. And now Jupiter, the traditional ruler of Pisces, has joined. Neptune and Jupiter in Pisces hasn't happened since 1856. So this energy, I mean, astrologers look to the past because we can, because of course all the planets are in
enough
this
time, right?
What happened, and in 1856 a lot of things were going on. There was a major peace treaty, actually, folks, signed in I think it was the Crimean War. It was a huge peace treaty. It was major to Europe, was signed at that time after enduring a terrible war. We also had like the height of the spiritualism movement in the United States, which actually was worldwide as well. So this is a trippy, spiritual, intense, like very different than Saturn and Uranus square, very different than Saturn Pluto, but we're still dealing with the after effects of it, because these transits are like a stone being like dropped in the water, and then there's like a ripple effect. And the outer planets take so long to move that sometimes the ripple effect lasts for a few years, and we're still, there's fallout from Saturn Pluto conjuncted. In Capricorn, Pluto is at 28 degrees of Capricorn right now, getting ready to move into Aquarius, which will happen for the first time next year. Then we'll retrograde back to Capricorn. And in 2024, Pluto will be in Aquarius. Things will be different. Things are already different now this year because I think of the Neptune-Jupiter conjunction. We have some glimmers of hope. What to expect? It's almost kind of like a unicorn energy. It's high level spiritual. So all of you practicing people, this Tuesday, the 12th, whatever the 12th is for you, you might want to spend some time, doing some magical workings, spend some time in meditation, spend some time in divination. This energy will last pretty much for the first half of this year. And it's like that stone being dropped in the water. It's not going to end, on Wednesday. It's right in what we consider very close for the next few months, but there's a really interesting opportunity here for you to release and also to gain something, deeply almost like transcendent and spiritual. So, it could ramp up all of your, your spiritual practices. You could get a visitation from, someone from another dimension. This is a really interesting energy. And I think that it also echoes like the idea of like peace and justice potentially happening in our collective. So I'm hoping that we have a resolution to the war in Ukraine and it doesn't last forever, like a lot of people are saying. Astrology is archetypally predictive. So we know that the archetype of compassion and unity is in play. And so we'll see what happens.
I hope so, because that's a terrible situation. That would be a wonderful outcome for it to be over quickly and limit the amount of pain, suffering, and horror that people are going through right
now. I mean, I have my mom's ancestry is Ukrainian, and so, her family, her father's family came from Kiev. So I'm like, whatever ancestral stuff, I'm like doing it. I'm like Baba Yaga, we're doing it. We're doing
connecting to that energy, right?
Yeah. So this is something available for everyone. It's really beautiful how it shows up. It's like, wow, let's just be aware of that. I think it's going to be, there's a lot of potential. There's a potential for healing. There's a potential for deep compassion. At the beginning of the year, I did like a year ahead astrology kind of forecast on my podcast. And I had said, this was in, I guess, January, that it's likely that there'll be a unity of something that we haven't seen in a long time, either a peace treaty or people coming together, probably because of some form of either a disaster or some kind of like difficult situation, looks to be like the war in Ukraine is a good, kind of manifestation of that. So, again, we hope, that is truly my hope, but, astrology, hey, I've been observing it for a long time and it seems to pretty much always show up,
Right. So we're talking about this energy because we're talking about planets that are having an effect on the globe, on the world, right? So where would people be looking for that energy in their own charts? Like look
Yeah.
for where
So
it's transiting in their charts, right?
right. So planets in any of the mutable signs, okay? The mutable signs are Gemini, Virgo, Pisces, and Sagittarius, especially at late degrees, and especially any planets in Pisces. And anywhere in your own astrology, if you know your astrological chart, the house with Pisces that is ruling. So, if you have a Virgo ascendant, Pisces would be your seventh house. Okay. So you have to know your astrology. And this energy is deeply affecting the mutable signs and deeply affecting Pisces and some Virgo too, because Virgo is Pisces opposition.
Opposite, yeah.
It's at 23 degrees, so it's later. And what's really nice too is that we'll also have Venus and Mars in Pisces. And what's really special, I mean, it's incredible that Jupiter and Neptune are conjunct in Pisces for the first time in 160 years. But then we also have Venus. And Venus in traditional astrology is like a very high level benefic energy,
Right.
It's about cooperation and love and good times and partying. So there's a lot of like, astrologers are like, wow, we got Venus too. And Venus is exalted in the sign of Pisces, and exaltations, that's I won't describe exactly how that works, but
That's where they're happy. It's their happy
it's,
place.
yeah, it is one of their happiest, joyous positions. Okay.
There
So
you go.
Venus
And they
does
express
well.
itself the most purely, right?
Right, exactly. I mean, it
So
expresses itself very well in its domiciles of Taurus and Libra, and it's really happy in Pisces. 'Cause, I mean, Pisces loves everyone, right? Taurus, you can love yourself, maybe the people that are in your family or that you own. Libra, you love the lover, and Venus in Pisces, you love your mankind,
everybody. Yeah, mankind.
everybody.
Everybody. Yeah.
So this is really cool. I really, really like this for just harmony. And, Venus is also the mediator, she doesn't have to, like, as a goddess, she doesn't have to, like, nobody tells her what to do. you know,
Yeah.
she makes everybody happy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So people look for where this is in your chart. If you know how to look at your chart, there's so many of those apps for your phone, and you just check out where the planet is moving through there. And you guys, if you know what your houses are, you'll be able to see where this is going to be highlighted in your own personal life.
Yeah. I mean, Angelica just in the chat, she's like, oh, I have, Pisces, it rules my fifth house. I just
Fifth
did a reading
house.
for somebody that same thing, and she didn't have any planets in there, and it doesn't matter. If you don't have planets in a house, it doesn't mean you're not going to do that house. I mean, I don't have any planets in my fifth house. That is the house of children and joy
Yeah.
and fun and creativity. Doesn't mean you're not going to have kids. Doesn't mean you're not going to be creative. It's just like not what you're really working on right now. Usually, where you have planets, it's kind of like what you're working on. It's a little bit
Yeah.
harder. But yeah, cultivating a practice of joy, like actually like having a good time finally, getting back to, wow, I can hang out with my friends. I mean, Venus, Jupiter, and Neptune is like going to a rock concert or a concert, having a good time. Like we cannot, this is magical too, getting together with your coven mates.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah, very cool. And I think my fifth house is Pisces, actually. Scorpio rising, that makes fifth house Pisces. I think so.
you're,
I
yeah,
think it's like
yeah,
late degree, though. Late degree, I
yeah.
believe. Like 27 degrees Pisces or something.
Yes.
So
So
actually, it's transiting my fourth then, right? Because we're in an earlier degree during that. But anyway, feel the energy, right? Well, I mean, do you
yeah.
think what, a 5 degree orb or a 10 degree orb? I always do the closer orb, like 5 degrees.
Well, you know what? For outer planets, I go up to 10.
Do you?
So yeah, definitely, especially for an outer planet transit. And sometimes just even if it was interesting too, is that like if a planet goes into a sign and you have an important, like it's your seventh house ruler, even if it's not like in orb or even close to it, you'll see a manifestation right away too. They kind of like show what they want to do right away. So
Right.
I don't work too much with like okay, this is a tight orb, this is a loose orb,
Okay.
especially if it's outer planets. The personal planets, Mercury through, Jupiter really, or Mercury through Mars especially, that move quickly. I work more with a tighter orb on that. But the outer planets, they got something to do, and and they want to do it. And it doesn't matter what the degree is, I've found.
Yeah. Well, and also it like if it's at a certain degree and you have other planets at that degree, that means something too, right? Or your houses are on a certain degree, right? So if you're like if something's 28 degrees and then you've got, a 28 degree midheaven, let's say, and that aspect is going on, that's affecting your midheaven, that would affect you too, right?
Yes, very much so, because the angles of the chart are really, really powerful. So if anything's hitting like the cusp of your first house, your ascendant, your fourth, your IC, your seventh, your descendant, or your MC, man, a planet over that is going to manifest probably physically, and it just depends on where it is. Like the fourth house, it might be a little bit more psychological because that is a real place of like inner self.
Yeah.
But if it's over your midheaven, for sure, really powerful. And
Yeah.
oh, by the way, I just took a quick look at your chart, Marissa, and the conjunction is like in your fourth house, but moving to your fifth.
Moving into the
Um,
fifth, right? Yeah. Yeah,
so
yeah, yeah.
things are, yeah, I mean, things at home are better. I mean, I already look at like your beautiful office that you have.
Oh, thank you. My I wish my daughter was in this room and not my office. I got to be
I hear
honest, but
you.
she is off doing her thing, living her life, so that's a positive, right?
For sure, for sure. I mean, she's a
Um,
musician and that's where she needs to be. Is she going to MI? Is that what you said that
yeah, she got her certificate. She's done. So she's
my
finished.
ex-husband, my kid's father is the head of guitar there at MI.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Mhm.
Wow.
It's
That's
the
awesome.
that's the rock and roll academy. It's rock and roll school in Hollywood.
Absolutely. Yeah, she's playing
Mm.
the Highland Bowl. She's opening for some bigger band. I don't know where it is. Some
Hollywood
Highland
Bowl?
Bowl place she's playing um on the 15th. She's been getting little gigs. I think, she misses Vegas though. Anyway, well, yeah, everybody here doesn't want to talk about my daughter, but
They do.
anyway, let's talk about these eclipses because
Yeah.
we're eclipsing out, right? Like
Yeah.
next couple of moons are
For sure. I mean, eclipses
intense.
eclipses are important, right? Because eclipses, like we were talking about transiting planets over the angles of your chart, eclipses always make shit happen. Things happen when eclipses happen. So,
Yeah.
especially if they hit any personal planets or the angles of your chart, eclipses eclipse people and things in and out of your life. Like kind of like we're talking about the sun flares.
Yeah.
The eclipses are like resets. It's like resetting your computer or your modem, because the literal electromagnetic energy from the sun and the reflection of that energy or light on the moon, is eclipsed. So
Yeah.
it's very, very important. So anyway, our eclipses now, we got a kind of a little bit of a glimmer of it back in Scorpio season when we had we had a solar eclipse. Oh no, we had a lunar eclipse in Taurus,
Right.
and that was in November. But as of November, like as of December, the nodes of the moon, which we call, and the nodes of the moon are really just the elliptical point where the moon's orbit around the Earth meets the Earth's orbit around the sun. That's what we call the nodes of the moon. And when we read astrological charts, these nodes, this axis is really important. And really, it's just the eclipse cycle. So we freeze frame it in natal charts. The eclipses this year and for the next, I'd say like 18 months are in Taurus and Scorpio.
Oh,
So
great.
I know I told you, but you've got eclipses. Well, I'm having
Okay.
my nodal return because I have my nodes of my moon in Taurus Scorpio. So
Okay.
it's a big deal. The first eclipse is April 30th. It is a solar eclipse, which is like kind of like a super new moon, but it is an eclipse. It's a solar eclipse. It's partial, so it's not a major eclipse like that 2021 that we had that you could see all across. It was like it was ominous.
Oh
This is
yeah.
not the same. It's not ominous. It's actually a really kind of for an eclipse, it's not too bad. It's at 10 degrees of Taurus. It is at the same time we have this eclipse. It's fairly close to Uranus. So there might be some sudden, things that come up. But at the same time, we have this eclipse. We also have Venus, Neptune, and Jupiter conjoined. So it's kind of like the skies are telling a story and it's not so bad. So that is not a terrible, solar eclipse. And in traditional astrology too, the solar eclipses were way less kind of ominous than the lunar ones. The lunar ones, kind of like a really intense full moon, they have a tendency to release energy. So sometimes people pass like around the eclipses, especially the lunar eclipses. It can be like a kind of a portal or a doorway. But babies are born too around these times too. They're really powerful doorways. So look for things around the Taurus Scorpio. Look for things like, because it's a North Node Taurus this year, it's about cultivating Taurus. It's about cultivating peace and serenity. And I'm going to throw in good times too. Self-love, caring for yourself, eating right, like just very like, earthy Taurian themes, and then releasing through the South Node and Scorpio. So the lunar eclipse will be on May 15th. And that is at 25 degrees Scorpio. So that's conjoined with your ascendant. So there's usually with the South Node eclipse, it's about releasing something. You have to let something go. That is not a bad thing. It could be like you're doing too much, Marissa, you can't do everything, and that's okay. It's okay to ask for help. It's okay to chill out. It's, so I would say like,
is it okay to chill out, Michelle? Come on now. You're talking to me.
I know. That's what I always say to you.
I can't chill out. I don't even know what that means. I had a chiropractor tell me I make coffee nervous. Okay. So that's, I gotta go. Sorry.
Sorry. Like, do you like to cook? Cooking, you got a moon in Cancer. Cooking is it's like meditative, like just relaxing, like putting your hands like on vegetables, or like making bread, or like,
oh yeah,
I would suggest like do that, like do a lot of cooking and like relax. That can be a relaxing thing for you.
Yeah, I cook. I make time every day. I cook for. I still have my son home and Roger. I cook every day. I stop whatever I'm doing and I make a meal, because honestly, it's relaxing to me, and I feel like I fed everybody. It's Italian in me too. I got to make sure everybody eats.
You got a moon in Cancer.
There you go.
Of course, you're like, you want to give your, instinctually nurturing other people.
I'm like, that's how I show you I love you. I'm giving you food. I'm making you sustenance.
Yeah. So, if you do have, like, if you're a Scorpio or you're a Taurus, this is, especially if you're a Taurus, because we have transiting Uranus, this is a time of change. And you already probably know that, because Uranus is like at, 12, 13 degrees right now. It's been there for a couple years. It's okay to change. The universe seems to desire that. Metamorphosis is the name of the game here,
It's so fast though, but it's like, is this normal for like the changes? I feel like in the last 3 years, even though we were at a standstill, so much changed. Like everything changed so quick. This was fast.
It was so fast, wasn't it? I mean, it was like, because, Saturn and Pluto, which are, many of us call, they're the two terminator planets of, the last planet you can see in the solar system with your original end of, Grim Reaper and Pluto. Those two planets create tremendous change, but they've been doing their dance for a while. Like let's just say like in 2001, Saturn and Pluto were in opposition. Okay. Especially at the very beginning of September in 2001, which you may remember was 9/11.
Yeah.
I mean, astrologers were like, hey, this is a big deal. This is hard. And then, in 2008, when Pluto moved into Capricorn, astrologers were like, shit, Pluto's in Capricorn and it's going to transform our institutions, our financial institutions. We had that tremendous recession. And in 2013 to 2020, we had a Saturn Pluto square. We had Uranus and Pluto square. And that also brought like just tremendous change. And that was kind of like what we call in orb, because these are such, like, Pluto's got a 240-year orbit. So, it stays in a sign anywhere from 10 to 17, 16 years, a long time. So its effect, is longer. And this sort of effect was probably 2013 to almost like to 2020. We knew there was changes. I mean, I've had a subscription to this astrology magazine called Mountain Astrologer for like 25 years or something.
Mountain
And
Astrologer.
I have all their old, it was just like, Uranus, Pluto square, oh my God. Astrologers knew it was happening, and we're just like sitting back going like, oh, wow. We are living in a time of unprecedented change. And I think a lot of it does have something to do with, I'm going to be kind of hippie-ish, the Aquarian age. Because we did have Jupiter and Saturn conjoin at the end of 2020 at 0 degrees Aquarius. And in many ways, it's like Jupiter and Saturn are also the social planets. Jupiter with our belief systems. What do we as a society believe in, And Saturn, what structures do we put in place to support that? Those two in Aquarius is, Jupiter and Saturn conjoin every, 20 years, but they haven't done it in Aquarius for hundreds of years. And for the last 200 years, it has been, they've been conjoining primarily in earth signs. This is something that happens.
Yeah.
And now they're conjoining in air signs. They call it the great mutation, because we're changing from earth and materialism into the element of air.
Yeah.
And all this is like, I mean, you're looking at like this happened, it changed so much. We now kids are like going to school online, and everybody's doing everything online. And that all happened like, boom.
Yeah.
It's where we're meant to be, it's what we're working with right now. And we're jumped into hopefully an opportunity to recreate things along the higher aspects of Aquarius, liberty, fraternity, Let's just hope it's that and not the dystopian Black Mirror, because that's there too. The shadow, it's like, that's there too.
Yeah. I feel like it's like a coin toss at this point. I got to be honest. I really do. The energy is so unstable and very unsettling a lot, but we are tough. We are strong. We have survived, and we will continue to survive and thrive. And we've got to just, take that energy and work within the confines of whatever it is and do our best to do that.
Absolutely. That's like, nobody gets out of here alive anyway, but what we can do is use our magic and our intention. If we are all part of something, our magic and our intention and our awareness of that affects things. Our magic works. So let's, how awesome is it that we're doing this right now, and we're connecting with all these people and hopefully inspiring them that they can do something for their own selves, but also for the world, by like, doing their own best, whatever that may be.
Whatever that is, and finding their own personal magic and connection to the universal energy that runs everything. And we've all got our little energy signature in there, and that's what astrology is. It's our energy signature in the universe, right?
Our particular psycho-spiritual DNA, like the building blocks of our energy signature, is that's perfect term.
Yeah.
So the eclipses this year, coming up right after next week's Neptune Jupiter conjunction, April 30th, the solar eclipse. I definitely don't do magic on those days. I keep it low. Cleanse, you could do like purification, do like a, psychic purification, meditation, journaling, but
the energy is too erratic at that time, and you never know which way it's going to go. And plus it can last 6 months after. Eclipse energy lasts up to 6 months, right? So you could be unleashing something into your life that you can't even, see what's going to happen.
Yeah, exactly. And so then the next eclipse is October 30th and November 8th, I believe. And the October 30th is a new moon solar eclipse conjoined with Venus too. And that is in Scorpio. And that is also on your ascendant. So that looks really good, actually.
All right. Well, that's good, because the other one got me a little nervous. I got to be honest.
Well, you know what? Breathe, cleanse.
I'm good. I'm good. I am strong. I am powerful, and I am in control. And I'm gonna go with the flow. That's it. All you can do, right?
That's right.
So, all right. So, any other insights? Oh, I have one more question before I get to that. If anybody who wants to learn about astrology, how do you suggest that they start? Anybody who's like, you talk today and they're like, wow, this sounds interesting to me. Where do you suggest they is the beginner book? Is it a class? What is it?
It's a great question. I don't even want to say we're in astrology renaissance. We're in an unprecedented time for astrology. There are so many tools and there are so many free tools. It's incredible. I mean, you used to have to like buy books and
Oh,
so
yeah.
hard to learn. And it was like really it was like a cult. It was hidden. And, if you lived in maybe a small town, you couldn't get information except for maybe at your library. So there is a ton of apps. Astro.com, I love because it was started by this woman named Liz Green, who is a very esteemed British astrologer. And so Astro.com, free, tons of free stuff. You can sign up for a free account. You can read articles. And I would suggest that you read a lot of the articles
Yeah.
to
It
learn,
draws charts too.
all free, all online. And then, of course, if you don't want to do any work, there's tons of apps. I mean, there's free apps. Time Passages is my go-to like phone app. I love it. Um, but then there's also like Chani Nicholas, there's all these like young celebrity kind of astrologers now that are like, she's got this like very, very popular app that tells you everything and you don't have to
Oh,
spend like
really? Wow.
yeah,
I thought she was a blogger. Now she's got a great app. Is
yeah,
that the deal?
yeah,
Wow.
huge.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. I don't have it. I wouldn't
Yeah,
use
I
it
don't. I
myself.
have the
It's
software in my
really,
computer. I still use my computer, guys. I do.
yeah.
I do. I've got,
You can
my
buy
my
you can buy
Kepler
it.
my Kepler software from a million years ago, and I
Ugh,
still use it. But if you
great.
want a free software, Alan Edwall, I don't know if I'm saying his name right, but he's got an astrology software that's free if you're on a PC and you want to like pull charts and you don't want to pay $500 for a Kepler or whatever, you can download that too. And
I
that's
think
not going to give you much of an interpretation, but you can draw the
right.
charts.
That's not necessarily great for beginners because you need to, but if you get that, that's awesome. And then you can get like some books or you can,
Yeah, right.
look
Well, then
up
you can
positions
make look at your
online.
chart and they're talking about, let's say they're talking about transits and you want to do a transit chart. You've got the software there. You can see exactly what that looks like. Sometimes I'm a hands-on person. I want to
Yeah.
see it. I want to
Yeah.
look at it. I want to like, how does this work? How can I make this work? I want to look at it with my eyes, print it out and hold it.
That's why I really think that writing your own chart, even if you don't look it up yourself, if you can just get like a piece of paper, if you go and get your chart online for free for whatever, and then get a piece of paper and draw a circle and put it in yourself, like when the physical like connection between you like drawing in like a little sun, like a little tiny sun in the
Yeah, oh
first
yeah.
house, it like connects you. Like you said, it's kinesthetic. And you're like, sun, the first house. And what does that mean? And it's like, if you think of the sun as like, your ego, your identity, it's also like your hero's journey, your heroine's journey. It's what you are here to become also. It really like how the sun radiates, it connects you in many different ways if you can do it yourself. But there's a ton of great books. I do recommend, and there's so many different like types of astrology now, like not only is there like your general, there's like your psychological astrology, but then there's like evolutionary astrology and
Oh, I
there's
think
Hellenistic
keep
astrology.
it simple.
Keep it
Learn your
simple.
basic astrology. Take Michelle's class on her website, persephoneprogram.com. I'm sure it's
Upcoming.
amazing. Yeah. No, don't you have a astrology 101 on there?
Yeah, but it's finished because I like to do them live.
Oh, you do them all. They're not recorded. Okay. So the next time
They are, but
keep a look and see.
I prefer to do them live because I just the last class that I did was recorded, and I like to be there for you, just like we are right now, so that like we can just talk, and people can go in the chat and say like, I don't understand this, and can you describe that? I prefer that myself. I want to be like hands-on with the teaching rather than me just be sitting here and saying like, oh, astrology is this and da 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 da. So
Right.
my classes are always live. and then you also get the recording of it.
There you
But you will
go.
be in it.
You know what I like to do with my classes? I put up some content for everybody, and then I do a monthly meeting. Like I'll do a meeting with whoever took the class,
Yeah,
and they can talk to me on a Zoom.
that's what
This
I do
way,
too.
they
Yeah,
can do it at their own pace
right.
whenever they can fit it in, and then
Yep.
I Zoom with them afterwards, which works out too, because
Yeah.
sometimes people can't make it to the class or whatever. So it's good to have the recording. I think it's good to have it recorded, and
Oh
then,
yeah, I agree.
it's awesome.
But I would prefer that they're actually
Yeah,
participating.
yeah, that they're actually there. Yeah, for sure.
I
For
just
sure.
I just dig it too.
Yeah, I
I like
like it too. I like it too. When it's possible,
right,
for
right, exactly.
sure.
So this is a
Uh,
better year. It's an interesting year. It's an unprecedented year. There is energy that we haven't experienced, also like the Saturn Pluto conjunction in Capricorn for 2020. We haven't experienced this before in our lifetime. It's going to be another interesting year, but I think that it moves into a little more solidity in 2024. And because Pluto is moving into Aquarius in 2024, I am personally hoping for more of a like egalitarian kind of a vibe for our future here in the United
2024
States.
seems really far away, Michelle. It,
Only 2 years.
yeah, but it just seems far. I feel like we've been through so much.
We
I want it
have.
to be better now.
This
This is
year is
very
also a lot
childish
about
of me, I
healing,
know.
like cultivating that Taurian, like let's
Yeah,
take
yeah,
care
for
of
sure.
ourselves and also releasing Scorpio, releasing the trauma. Like we all really have been through trauma. We might be playing it off, but we need to like
Oh,
do
yeah.
everything that we
Decompress
can
for
to
sure.
help ourselves. We've lost people. I lost my mother and my aunt and my other aunt, my partner's aunt died of COVID.
Wow.
It's just like,
Wow.
man, it's
God, I
real.
mean,
Been
how
real.
tragic. The amount of people that left this world so suddenly. Crazy.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah.
but there's better days ahead, and that's what matters, even if it seems a little far to me because I'm impatient. I have no patience, but I'm gonna learn to chill. I'm gonna cook more. There you go. I'm gonna bake a bread.
Cook more, cultivate, all of us cultivate our spiritual practice. Also, have fun, if you can, a little bit, especially in April. I want to also mention that this is the last month when all the planets will be direct all year. So we're going to have a lot of retrogrades this year. Mercury, of course, does its
It's
retrograde.
in.
Its first retrograde or its second retrograde will be in May 10th. But we have all the planets direct still. So if you can, I also want to mention too that next week and the week after, and especially around the 22nd of this month, Venus, Jupiter, and Neptune are in great position. So if you do want to do some astrological magic, or you want to cultivate the energy of like luck and love, this is a fantastic time to do it, especially between the 12th and the 22nd, before the 12th and the 26th, I think, of the month. Very good days, depending on which ones you want. Thursday in astrological magic is Jupiter's day. Friday is
Jupiter
Venus's
day.
day. So light a candle, petition the
Well,
planets.
lots of love. Expansive love.
Love, luck, obstacle removals,
Yeah.
joy,
Yeah,
all
yeah,
that.
yeah. We could all use a little joy for sure. So, thank you so much, Michelle. This was a lot of
Thanks.
fun. I
It
enjoyed
was.
this a lot. I'm sorry, guys, that I'm kind of congested. I don't know if you can hear it. I tried not to drink this water too much. I just didn't want to cough all over you. And this is me, guys. What you see is what you get. That's what happened. I'm letting you know. I'm not trying to not trying to hide it from anybody, but I hope you enjoyed this conversation because it was great. Um, thanks for joining us for this episode. Thank you, Michelle. Join us on Tuesday. We're going to talk with Heather Lee about paranormal investigation and ghost hunting.
Oh, I'm
She
going to
is
join
a
that.
parapsychologist. Yeah, so that's going to be a lot of fun. And
On
until I think that's Tuesday, right? The 12th. Yeah. Until then, remember to be the magic, because you are the magic, and that's a fact. And I will catch you guys next time.
Yay.
And hopefully no allergies. Anyway, bye guys. Enjoy.
Bye.